Three, two, one. Here we are on another podcast episode. We got our boy, all right, childhood friend, writer, community organizer, accessibility expert, football head, Ahmed Habib, man, Hamoudi.
My guys. Yes,
My
guys.
man.
So
The
amazing to
Basic
have you
Bone
on.
and Namco. What's going on? You guys are good?
We're good,
We're good,
man.
bro.
We're good. All the
How you
way
been?
from Qatar. All the way from Qatar.
Yeah,
He's joining
just to-
us. Amazing.
That's right.
So, how's it going, brother?
Yo, man, I just wanted to start off by saying really how I'm really enjoying these episodes. Really glad and always happy to support independent media outlets. I think we need more voices out there. I think a lot of the narrative is being kind of chewed up by big corporate media outlets, and it's always good to have two intelligent, smart, passionate dudes like you guys out there talking about different topics, and I've really been liking the variety of different guests that you've had. I didn't check out the last guest, but I believe he was a vet.
He was a vet.
That's
and
right.
Austrian Special Forces, Heimo. It was really
Okay.
interesting. It was a really, really good episode. We talked about entrepreneurship, motivation, passion. It was really good, man. So hopefully everyone
right,
checks
nice.
it out. Hopefully everyone
Yes.
checks it out. But it's
SIYL
amazing, man. We're
podcast.
trying to start the movement, Hamoudi. We're trying to get it going.
Yeah,
So,
man. Yeah, definitely. I know sometimes when you start out, it feels like you're kind of like a voice in the wilderness and no one's really listening. But you just got to push through that. Notice that whatever content you're putting out there, it must be having an impact on some of your listeners, and then those listeners or viewers will tell others, and that's how you slowly begin to create that footprint that you guys are working on.
the thing is, man, just talking to you now and just seeing you on, it's just brings back so much memories. And to be honest, I don't even know where to start with you, man. Yani, for everyone to know, Ahmed and me go way back. Like, he's literally my first childhood friend. We went to KG together, which is just wild.
That's right.
We got into a little bit of trouble through our younger years and our older years. So, he's someone that I've always really admired, looked up to, extremely smart. You're very active, and we'd love to hear more about it. And I think the viewers would love to hear more about it.
So much to talk about.
Where do you want us to start, man? Tell us where.
Well, I mean, also just to give viewers and listeners an idea, me and Basic or Leif also go way back, right? I mean, I hooked up with Leif maybe a little bit
back.
Yeah, a little bit older than when me and Namir kind of met. When me and Namir met, we were barely out of toddler stage.
Yep.
But when me and Bazig met, I was more of a fully formed child, let's say. But both of these connections happened down the street from where you guys are right now, on the streets of Abu Dhabi. I'm actually in the process now of, and this is kind of an exclusive here for Stay in Your Lane, I'm in the process of writing a book. And
What?
I just finished a chapter called Streetbound, and it discussed kind of like how the streets became a home for us, you know what I mean? All the way from Abu Dhabi up until we kind of reconnected in Mississauga, just on the outskirts of Toronto, Canada, and how those streets, it was the only place that we could be, man. It was the only place that was big enough to kind of capture all the madness that we were going through.
It shaped us.
We
man.
met at the skate park. Remember that?
Yeah, man. For people that don't know, we built the first half pipe in the UAE. We
right.
made a skate film. We made
That's
a
right.
skate film in the early 90s. That's no longer there. It's just a thing of kind of like, it's this kind of like magical mystery that no longer exists.
The
What was it
golden
called?
years.
Dolph Skates? I think it was called.
Something like that. It's
And-
funny you mentioned that. Just like less than maybe a week ago, I was thinking about who has that footage? Who has that VHS tape right now? I would
Firas
love to
Ayoub
see
has it for sure, all the way in Amman.
Firas
Big
Ayoub,
up to
share
Firas.
that. Share that with
Yeah.
us, man. We need to see
Shout
that
out
action.
to Firas. So we were kids in Abu Dhabi, and like we were kind of like just trying to like figure it out for ourselves. Abu Dhabi at that time was quite cut off from the rest of the world. It's not like what it is right now, kind of like an epicenter
True.
for pop culture and all these artists and stuff. And we were just trying to figure it out. Kids would go to the States and come back with skateboards, and we were all into it. And
Powell,
we were
Peralta, Tony Hawk. You remember that,
That's
man?
That's right. And I remember also as kids, we were also consuming a lot of these like breakdance videos, breakdance movies that were coming out of the States. And
You
hip
had to
hop
bring it up.
tapes.
See that?
Right.
So this is we're starting. Look, we're starting off on the wrong foot already.
No, that's not.
Right.
That's not the case.
So this wasn't in the script at all. But I'm gonna put it out there right now. Ahmed has to be the worst breakdancing judge ever. He tortured me as a child. Me and my brother Laith, who's not this Laith, although Laith is my brother, but my real brother, my blood brother Laith. Shout out to Laith. We used to have breakdancing competitions, and Ahmed used to sit and judge it. And I would lose every single time. And you know why I would lose? It was a fixed gig, right? He was
100%.
scared. He was scared that my brother was gonna beat him down, and that was
That's
it.
right.
Man.
That's right. Lesson number one, right? Always let the bigger guy win.
Torture. You tortured me, man. I have a lot of confidence issues because of that. But you know what? I was also thinking. I was sorry. I was thinking about it. Is like I met Laith for the first time at your place
through Ahmed,
right?
In Mississauga.
In Canada.
That's right, man. When we all reconnected in Saga in the early 90s, we were kind of like once again displaced, these like diasporic youth trying to find home away from home, away from home, away from home. And we ended up in Saga, and we ended up building this huge family that replaced all these things that we were searching for, all these things that were lost. And it was just the beginning of a beautiful journey, and our lives continued to be intertwined. And, so many names come to mind that are still there. And, you ended up marrying someone, Besma, shout out to Besma. We met Besma there as well. Right? Laith is there. I mean, it's just crazy, this whole family that we got to build in the diaspora. And I think that's something beautiful and a testament to the power of community, which is why I work on the community organizing front as well.
And I love that. And I was just, the Shikamaru movement, for everyone to know, was something that I was a part of when it first kicked off. If you remember, we set up independent Arabic media, and we got that, really going in the beginning. And I feel as though, and I always tell people, I feel like we were way, way ahead of it. Like people just weren't understanding the power of online media, the power of that presence. And we just, we built such an amazing platform. And like I said, a little bit ahead of our time, but I'm so glad to see that you're just, you're building on that, you're moving on that. And it's such an amazing movement. And we always try to, try to support it and try to be there for you, man. And it's just really wonderful.
Well, man. I mean, Shikamaru Net next year in June of 2021, I can't believe I'm even saying 2021, is gonna be celebrating its 20th year, bro. We launched Shikamaru Net in 2001. We built that website on Notepad. I don't know if any of the kids listening out there know what Notepad is. It's that little app on your computer where you type notes, but you can design websites in that. And we were doing that. And you're right, man. We were way ahead of our times. And it was actually a disadvantage for us too, because we didn't know really how to get it out there effectively. And the audiences really didn't know how to receive it as effectively as well. But we're pushing through now, making use of Instagram and social media. And, we're trying to build on it. Working around issues surrounding Iraq has always been something that's close to all of our hearts in different ways. So it's something that I'm really glad to be continuing to work on.
And this is, I think it's a really good starting point, man, is to talk about the Shikamaru story, about what message you're trying to put out. I think it's just an amazing thing, as you've highlighted already, Hani. We're all Iraqis originally. We're all displaced one way or another. And it's just kind of, it's a voice for those displaced Iraqis. And that's the way I see it. And that's the way I experience it. But it's just such an amazing movement. You know what I mean? For that, I think deserves a little bit of attention. It's something that, it's a baby. Like I said, I feel very connected to it. And just to see you continue with it is just unreal. For, tell us about it. I mean, where are you going with it? What are you trying to do with it?
And in the year 2000, I got kicked out of university in Toronto. And it was probably because I was doing a lot of things that students shouldn't be doing and focusing on extracurricular activities. So the school's like, fuck this. This guy's got to get out of here for a year to get his life together. So my dad was like, you're coming out to the Gulf. And I was at like the peak of like my revolutionary awareness and stuff. And I'm like, fuck that. I'm not going to the Gulf and being cooped up in like air-conditioned homes, and I can't do that. He said, well, okay, but I'm not going to let you stay in smoke-filled Toronto for 1 year and waste a year of your life. So you got to make a choice. So I said, you know what? I want to go to Baghdad. And he's like, no, no one wants to go to Baghdad now. We're talking about a situation where it was the peak of the sanctions. People were lining up for chicken. People were lining up for eggs. There was no medication in hospitals. We're talking about a situation where there was a mass genocide that was taking place. But still, I was adamant to go. So I ended up going to Baghdad and living there for about 9 months to a year, staying at my aunt Emel's house. And it was just a life-changing experience for me because all of a sudden I was faced with directly with an identity that for a very long time had been such a huge part of who I am. But now it was everywhere. Like everyone was speaking Iraqi. And I was
real.
shocked.
Yeah, it was real.
It was real. So it was a life-changing experience for me on many, many different levels, spiritually, emotionally, political awareness-wise. So right after then, I actually flew out to see my parents and my sister Hadil, shout out Hadula, and I were talking. We were talking and I'm like, yo, let's do something on this thing they called the web, the internet. I think people are doing websites.
The web.
Yeah. I don't know what it is. It looks,
we'll do some www something. I don't know. Amazing.
It looks cool. Let's do it. And she came up with the name Shikamaru. Like I said, we built it on Notepad. And the purpose of it was to create a platform, a digital platform for Iraqis in the diaspora to be able to communicate the way they felt about their identity, to kind of share stories from our history, from our culture, to talk about sports and soccer and recipes and music. And like you said, Namir, so rightfully so, we were so much ahead of our time that we didn't know how to update the website. The website would go offline for months, sometimes years. We didn't have the technical skill to kind of like build it or keep it going. And it would just disappear and come back and disappear and come back. And then at the 10th anniversary of the Iraq War in 2013, we brought it back up to life and it's been going since then. So we're on a good 8-year stretch. I think it's good, knock on wood.
Amazing,
and I think we're going to keep it going. I'm working with a group of designers now based in Holland, based in Scotland, young Iraqi women designers, and we're going to rebrand and redesign the website and bring it back to life as well. So it's going to keep going ever so strong. We're also doing a lot of Zoom events. We're bringing together hundreds of people for live performances, DJ shows, fundraisers. So it's really kind of like ballooning beyond the digital platform or the website aspect of it and becoming a real platform for young Iraqis. And I cannot tell you the amount of messages that I get every week from people who are thanking us for the work that we do by connecting them with other Iraqis, people that are in diaspora, Iraqis from Sweden that are living in Mexico, Iraqis that are living in the States, everywhere around the world saying, thank you for this platform. So we're really excited for it to keep growing.
When are you going to start a podcast, man? That's really the question. Leif asked the question. I think, it needs it, deserves it, man. People want to hear you.
I've learned a lot over the last few years of my life, which is overstretching and managing my bandwidth and managing my time. So in addition to Shikamaru Connect, we're also launching, I was telling Leif just before we got on the air, we're launching an independent Iraqi film festival because I really think that film is such an important medium. And of course, Namir, you've done so much work on that area with Sedhu Productions and maybe we could talk a little bit about your film as well. And you know the importance of film. So we're trying to launch a virtual online festival that's going to be kicking off hopefully over the next month. The festival will also include a variety of different initiatives like Soundscape Project. We want to collect found sound from Iraqi cities, from Iraqi homes in the diaspora. We want to create a library of sound. We want to do some virtual art shows, maybe some things connected to Iraqi cinema, talks, teach-ins. So it's keeping me quite busy, to be honest, and I should be paying a lot of attention to that, of course, other than all the day job stuff as well. So a lot of things keeping me busy.
Well, that's the thing about the Iraqi culture. There's no shortage of content, being music, film, art, you name it. And it goes way, way back. And I think the new generation is finding their new identity through 100%. The Iraqi culture with that. I think Shikamaru, one of the great things I like about it is most of your followers are diehard, real, true, like fans.
Soldiers.
They're organic, real fans. It's not like somebody that's just going to join because they want to join. people are interested in most of the content that you've been putting out.
Yeah, and that's why you'll see that, you know, our footprint, relatively speaking, is quite small compared to a lot of the other kind of digital platforms that are out there. But we're very happy with the level of engagement that we get. Like you said, Laith, very rightfully so. You know, all of the people that follow us are constantly messaging us and sharing the content and retweeting or reaching out. One of the beautiful things as well, man, has been the ability to work with creatives inside the country. Recently, a few days ago, we put up a video about Ghufran, she's a 33-year-old baker in Baghdad, breaking gender stereotypes. That film was entirely produced by filmmakers, a husband and wife team. Shout out to Sajjad and Seja. They're in Baghdad. They're making films for us at shikamaru.net. And it's been a beautiful journey to kind of be able to reconnect with Baghdad in that way. But man, listen, Iraq is everywhere, man. It's from Mosul to Melbourne, from Baghdad to Brisbane, Basra to Brampton. It's everywhere, man. And, you know, so it's a beautiful thing that we're just really honored to be a part of.
Do you find non-Iraqi people joining or you know, interested in some of the content that's being put out there? Is it going outside of the Iraqi community that's living in Iraq or outside of Iraq?
There's always that layer of people that work in and around Iraq that are not Iraqi. So they're very much interested as well. You know, people that work in UNESCO and the UNICEF, people that work in NGOs that are kind of, you know, working with kids in Iraq or working to support civil society in the country. They always are reaching out to us and very interested in the content that we're putting out there. At the same time, man, in 2003, let's not forget, the movement to protest the war on Iraq was truly, absolutely global.
Correct.
It shaped pop culture. It shaped hip hop. Yeah. It shaped a lot of films that came out. Remember Michael Moore. Remember a lot of the stuff that was coming out then. So yeah, a lot of people are influenced and know about Iraq. At the same time, Iraq went through a lot of violence since 2003. A lot of people were jaded. You know, a lot of people thought that Iraqis were just naturally violent, trying to kill each other because of their sectarian allegiances. So a lot of people were maybe a little bit put off by it. But yeah, more and more we're engaging with people who are non-Iraqi, and it's part of the work that we do as well. And of course, you know, our viewers and listeners should know we're one of the few, if not the only platform that does this in the English language. And, you know, there are a lot of people out there that are doing great work in Arabic, but we're doing it in English. And I think that puts us in a good position also to have a special place in people's heart.
And whenever you talk about these kind of like different things, I always remember the story of you going to Venezuela, right? And I think it's such an interesting kind of interaction that you had there. What a wonderful place, wonderful support that we got out of a country that's suffering in the same way, right? So, you know, I think there's so many amazing stories that came out of that, and I think it deserves a little bit of attention. Tell us about that, man. What year was that?
That was 2005. Shout out to Hamdi Hamoudi, of course, because he was with me on that trip. And one of the greatest things, man, that happened on that trip, so we were there for this huge festival called the World Festival of Youth and Students, and they had this opening ceremony in a football stadium in Caracas, in the capital of Venezuela, and there must have been, you know, over 20,000 people at the stadium. And, you know, they were kind of calling out countries one by one. We were in the Canadian delegation, but me and Hamdi both had this epiphany before we walked out onto the stadium, being like, man, yeah, you know, Canada's home to us, and we have so much love for Canada and all that it's done for us and our families. But at the same time, true blue Iraqis right here. So we need to go and find the Iraqi delegation and take a hold of that flag and walk out onto the stadium with the Iraqi flag, because I think that's how we're going to better remember this experience. So we went through A, B, C, D, all the way to I, and we found this one lonely dude carrying the Iraqi flag. He's like he was a German Iraqi who could barely speak any English. And we went up to him and we're like, yo, man, do you mind if we walk with you? And I remember very, very clearly the first thing he said to us was, what political party are you from? And Hamdi and I were so offended by this, because we felt that it was such a reflection of the sectarianism that was going on. We were hoping that he would welcome us with open arms and be like, Habibi, come, so of course. And then that's when I had to revert a little bit to my street education. I'm like,
your gangster side.
I'm like, bro, I recommend you give me the flag now in a peaceful manner. let me take the Iraqi flag, me and Hamdi. Let's
I'll
walk
show
out
you
of
what
there."
party I'm from.
Let me
Yeah.
take the Iraqi flag. You step to the side,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Don't worry about this. I got
And
this.
the man was genuinely terrified, which I give him credit for. We took the flag, bro. We reach this like tunnel or this lineup rather, not a tunnel. It feels like a tunnel. And they call out the name Iraq. This is 2005, bro. The stadium erupts.
For sure, man.
Like Messi's walking onto the stadium, okay? They start chanting, Iraq, amigo, Cuba está contigo, Iraq, our friends, Cuba is with you. The Argentinians start going crazy. Hugo Chavez stands up and pumps his fist in the air
Unreal.
as we're walking by. Bro, me and
Unreal.
Hamdi were out of this
Cloud
world.
nine.
Two suburban kids, you know what I mean? We took a plane with 200 people from Toronto, 200 people from different progressive organizations in the city, came out to Venezuela to show solidarity with the people of Venezuela, you know, in their struggle for economic justice, indigenous rights, better access to healthcare and education. So we were out there trying to do that. But this whole experience, and then, man, all of a sudden, we became these celebrities of the festival. People would come out and try to like, interview us.
Yeah,
right? People would come out and try to interview us and say, "Yo, how are things for you in Iraq, the community outside of Iraq?" So it was a beautiful experience for us. One of many, many, many life-changing moments that have accompanied this tumultuous relationship with this identity called Iraq. And I'm sure everyone out there who's listening who's Iraqi or knows Iraqi people will know how intense their relationship is with their identity. So it was another step, and thank you for reminding me of it.
Yeah, man. I was just because I was also remembering, you know, we're big hip hop heads. I'm a hip hop head. Laith kind of dives in and out of it.
I dabble.
Right? He dabbles around in it, right? But also you connected with, I think, one of the best lyricists out there, right? So put it out
M1,
there.
Immortal Technique, Kanon.
Immortal
We were
Technique.
all there. Technique. We were all there together. M1, Immortal Technique, Kanon. There's a video of me and M1 freestyling on the Shikamaru Vimeo channel if you want to go check it out. Immortal Technique, bro, is a crazy lyricist and a crazy individual in real life. I'll tell you a story about me and Immortal Technique. One night, me and Hamdi were in the hotel room, and it must have been like 2 a.m. and this guy calls me and he's like, "Yo, Iraq." Immortal Technique used to call me Iraq. And I was like fangirling hardcore, you know what I mean? I couldn't believe that Immortal was calling. I'm like, yeah, Immortal? You want me? He was like, "Yo, come down." So I'm like, man, this is going to be one of these moments where if I come down, we're going to go out there, smoke on the pool, chill, cypher. It's going to be beautiful. I go down to the lobby and Immortal Technique is there. And he's like, "Yo, there's been a problem. The Libyans have beaten up my buddy."
Okay.
And,
so he's coming for the Iraqis for support.
He's like, you speak Arabic. This story gets really crazy. He's like, "You speak Arabic, and I want you to come out and help me speak to the Libyans, and you got to explain to them that what they did was wrong." Now, keep in mind, I had been keeping an eye on the Libyan delegation at this conference. It was like 300 men strong.
Wow.
These guys would be wasted / stoned by like 10, 11 o'clock in the morning. They'd be rowdy as hell.
Lit up.
And as someone who's been on the streets and knows how to navigate these situations, I see all the red flags, and I shouldn't be getting into this in any way, shape, or form. But it is Immortal Technique, and at this point, I am a fangirl. So I said, "Yeah, man, let's go take care of this." So me and him, keep in mind, 2 o'clock in the morning, we go and knock on this. This door.
You're breaking the party, right?
Of all men. Yeah, of all men. And the door opens, and the guy recognizes me because I'm on a wheelchair and I'm easily recognizable. Remember what we were talking about with the whole Iraq celebrity status. He opens the door. He's like, "Habibi, kef halik, Habibi." And then Immortal Technique, for people that don't know him, has a really serious face. The man is a serious MC and a serious rapper. So he's standing there almost like a military man. And then he's like, "Yo, Iraq, tell him this." And I'm like, "Habibi, kef halik." At this point, I realize that I need to kind of like calm things down and not escalate them because it's not going to work out for me or for Immortal Technique. All of a sudden, Immortal Technique breaks out into this tirade about how he's the king of hip hop in English, though. He's like,
Okay.
tell this man that I'm the king of hip hop, and there needs to be African-Arab solidarity, and what he did was wrong. And if we were back in New York, I would fuck him up and this and that. And he needs to check himself, and the guys with him need to check himself, and
He's
I
not
want them to
getting
pay
it.
for the hospital bill. So Ani, right away, I turn around to the Libyan guy. I'm like, "Hada bas habi sallam alayk, habi billah."
You're just saying
Yeah,
hi. He just wants
yeah.
to. He's shouting out, wanting to say hi.
You're right.
one,
I'm like,
good
yo,
one,
this
good
guy
one.
just wants to say what's up. You know what I mean? We just come in and say hello. He's like, come in. I'm like, no, man, it's late, whatever. So Immortal's like, yo, what did you tell him? What did the guy tell you? I'm like, yeah, man, they're gonna meet with you tomorrow in the lobby in the morning and work it out. So thankfully, I got out of that, man. But M1 is such a gifted MC as well from Dead Prez. People out there who know Dead Prez and the beautiful song.
Love
Yeah.
Dead Prez, man.
Actually, you introduced me to Dead Prez, Namir, I believe, a long time ago.
Mind Sex, hip hop, man. Two
Yeah,
classic songs that are coming out of their way, man.
But Buzz, you're a hip hop head, man. Me and you used to ride in the big blue van and bump Redman and Method Man all day long. No?
You know, I love 90s hip hop. You know, once that era kind of evaporated, I kind of lost interest. And you know where my interest is. And together we had something going on, Babylonia Frequency.
Of course, yeah, man. You know, electronic music is such a beautiful way, man, to elevate the mind, especially when the mind is already elevated. You know, so it's a very great.
So this is
a very great place.
Mid-90s, Ahmed picks up this sick-ass computer with spec'd out music sound card, video card, and we start doing our own mixing on his computer, and we called it Babylonia Frequency.
Shout out to Ziad as well. Ziad Abdul Wahab. You used to listen on that as well. So music has been a big part of our lives, man, and hip hop. You know, I was also thinking the other day about hip hop and how when we landed in Toronto, man, in 1992, and I remember I landed in September and it was snowing, and I'm like, what the fuck am I doing here? And how am I going to survive this? And hip hop and hip hop artists, man, were speaking in a language that, you know, we really connected with because they were talking truth to power, right?
Exactly.
And they were just speaking with so much fire and finesse, and they were young, criminalized black men living in ghettoized neighborhoods, and it was just really great to see that art form, and that's why we embraced it. Yeah, man.
I mean, you know, it's funny. Every time I see you, Laith, I always associate Method Man and Nas are the two.
Nas
always, because that's the connection I felt.
Nas was amazing.
One of the best.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about some of the greatest MCs out there, and of course, yesterday we celebrated Biggie Small's birthday. Shout out to him wherever he may be.
Rest in power,
right?
Yeah, rest in power.
Yeah, man, he was a big part of our upbringing as well, right? Biggie Smalls and all these artists. And another thing that you used to listen to as well that I know has died out, and a lot of kids will have no idea what we're talking about, is freestyle music. You remember Stevie B?
Stevie B is like the Michael Jackson of freestyle. Like, people don't understand.
Yeah, is he Turkish? Where is he from?
No, he's like I want to say Moroccan, maybe. Moroccan?
I don't know if it was one of those situations where we projected his Arabness on him.
No, definitely. Definitely. Without a doubt, he has some Arabic blood. I want to say Moroccan. I'm not sure. Yeah, without a doubt, for sure. Stevie B. Again, guys.
If you can name a Stevie B song, I'll cut my ear off.
Which one? Spring Love. Me? Of course.
Spring
Love. Excuse me?
You'll start breakdancing right now.
Yeah.
Are you seriously challenging me to a freestyle?
Yeah. Maybe we can mix it into the end of this podcast. You know what I mean? We can bring in some.
Try to find the exit. On the exit, we can exit with a Stevie B kind of beat on the way out.
And that's where we grew up, man. It was like all these Arabs with like gelled back hair and like, you know, black bomber jackets, riding Civic hatchbacks, listening to Stevie B and like hip hop, and then, you know, the odd time they would mix in some Debka or some Iraqi hecha, and that's what we were, man. We were just wilding out on the street, man, trying to build a family out of nothing, you know.
Unbelievable, man. It brings back so much memories.
Who knew?
That's right. Yeah.
One of the best poets that I know, right, is Ahmed Habib.
Who knew?
Honestly,
thank you.
There's things that comes out of his mouth that kind of just makes you melt, makes you think. It's just
thank you. That means a lot.
No, honestly, man, and I say it, no bullshit. You know, I'll always talk shit to you, but for real, this is one of the skills that you have that I always feel needs.
Yeah.
You need to put more energy into it, and you need to put it out there more, man. You don't do enough with it, honestly.
That's true. I took the skill of talking shit on the streets and starting fights with people and kind of You know what I mean? Molded it into something that's a bit more productive. But yes, thank you. Spoken word has been a big part of my life as well, because it gave me um, this ability to kind of like put things out there. It's a creative story actually with spoken word as well. I used to do a lot of freestyling up at York University campus in Toronto, and I used to get lifted mentally and go out there and battle kids, bro. And of course, me being in a wheelchair, when I used to go up to like people freestyling, they used to kind of all look at me like, Miskeen, haram, poor guy, right? Let him just get in there. And then, with the beat, the beatbox, I would get in there and I would murder kids. You know what I mean? So one day, this like massive Guatemalan dude, massive, like 6'6", maybe even, El Poeta Spin, shout out wherever he is right now. He came up to me and he's like, bro, you're a really good MC, but do you know how to write? And I was like, man, writing is not real hip hop. You just got to let it flow from the mind. You got to let it from. He's like, bro, if you can't write, you're not an MC. You're not a real poet. You're not a real hip hop artist. You're just talking shit. You know what I mean?
Wow.
You're just like spitting lines and shit. And keep in mind, again, this guy is a massive dude, like 6'6", kind of towering on me like this. I'm like, bro, whatever, man. I can't write. I don't have time for writing, whatever. He's like, listen, man, if you want to be a proper artist, you need to start writing. And I'm holding these classes on campus for up and coming MCs that if they want to write. And I was like, whatever, man, I'm too good for this. In my mind, I'm saying, right, I'm already an established like world star hip hop freestyle artist in my mind. But through the miracle of just being humble, I guess, at a certain point, I went to his class, and he was just talking to us a little bit about writing. We started listening to some spoken word. Up until that point, I really hadn't heard it, to be honest. Yeah. And then he's like, listen, I'm going to put on a show on College Street in Toronto, in Little Portugal, at this like Portuguese bar, like a rundown Portuguese bar. And and you guys are all performing. So I was like, yeah, man, whatever. I'm out of here. I got to go back into like my own stardom where I'm the big head. Yeah. And lo and behold, a few days later, I'm on campus. And then these guys come up to me, these girls come up to me. They're like, yo, Ahmed, man, we're so happy to see that you're going to be performing. I'm like, performing where? And they're like, yeah, you're performing at Spin's thing downtown. I'm like, no, I'm not. They're like, yeah, look at that poster behind you. Your name is
That's how you found out? That's how you found out?
Yeah, he put up my name, bro. He put up my name on the poster. I'm like, what is this? What are you doing? And I look at the poster, and it was, I think, for like 2 or 3 days away. And I'm like, yeah, man, whatever. I'm just going to go in there and wing it. You know what I mean? And just like freestyle.
Typical style, typical.
100%. But then a few hours later, I bump into Spin. And then Spin has a reel. He's like, yo, you ready for Thursday or whatever day it was? You ready? I'm like, yeah, man, no. He's like, no, are you ready? Do you have something written? You can't come in there and freestyle. It's not a freestyle show. You know what I mean? There's going to be no beat. It's just going to be you and the microphone and an audience. So I'm like, yo, man, don't worry. I got it, man. And at this point, I'm shitting my pants. I've never written a poem in my life. So the day before, I was wandering around campus with Visine, and I ended up on a computer library. Sorry, a library computer in the middle of the hallway. And I'm like, I just need to sit down and write something. So I went into my Hotmail at that time, and I opened up the Hotmail and I sent it as an email to myself. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I had no access to like Microsoft Word. I didn't have a laptop at the time. I was just whatever. I was out there. So I wrote Who Knew? And it went, it starts off with, I'm on a mission. Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Do it.
Yeah, I'm on a mission. I'm on a mission to debunk renditions of corrupt politicians, examine how Arabs were once mathematicians, but now we're wishing that they are fishing with American diplomatic missions. I wrote that because I'm like, I need to tell them why I'm here. I'm on a mission. And then I was just so sick and tired of Arab sellouts. So I'm like, I want to talk about how Arabs were once mathematicians, but now we're wishing that they are fishing with American diplomatic missions. So that's how I started it off. And of course, I have those 3 key who knews in the end. The first one being, who knew that the sky can turn pink and the sun can sink into the earth, where things of the greatest worth give birth to every verse that I disperse and find myself inside it immersed. I wrote that line. I remember I wrote that line after I sat down at the library. I was at my then girlfriend's house, Jenny. My wife is not Jenny, but this is another Jenny. We're on 500.
You're keeping it within the Jennies, keeping it nice and easy.
Yeah,
I like it.
Jenny for life. So I was at 500 Mary Ross in North York, and I was looking out the window, and this beautiful Toronto, like sunset, where the sky turned pink, and the sun would sink into the earth, where things of the greatest worth give birth to every verse that I disperse and find myself inside it immersed. You know what I mean? So I wrote that line.
Love it.
And then the next "Who Knew" that I wrote was, who knew that the soul I left in Baghdad I would search for in zigzags, and body bags would be a gift to my people. Their souls are not so feeble, and with every evil achiever there was born a believer who through words can conceive a viva Iraq. But now that the birds are back, I think I saw a dove with the whole weight of the world on its back. Again, I mean, I wrote that because, that soul that I lost, I was searching for in zigzags.
From the heart.
Bags
it's from the heart.
Right.
Honestly.
That's right.
When you say this, like, it really makes me want to like connect with people that connect with you. So that interaction you had with that individual, right, that promoted and pushed you, shoved you into that, brought out such an unbelievably beautiful thing.
Yeah, man.
And those are the kind of moments that we all, we walk through life, and there are people that just kind of stand out in the movie that we call our life, right? And we're the stars of our own little picture.
100%.
And like you said, now, how many years on, you remember that individual that pushed you and created and opened up a new platform for you, and this amazing skill that you had in you, but you didn't want to recognize, or you just didn't appreciate or understand that it was there. And it's just such a beautiful thing, like unbelievable.
Man, you know me. You both know me. I'm a man of many individuals. I brought many individuals into our circle. You know what I mean? We can have a whole.
Oh my God!
We can have a whole podcast series about the types of individuals that I've brought. But it's always been because of this. Yeah,
the shadiest characters I've ever met in my life were associated with this man right here across from me on the Zoom. I'm just gonna put it out there.
I've always wanted to bring in people who pushed me, who challenged me, who made me hate life, who made me love life, who, just added a lot of color to the world that I lived in. And I think it's a strong testament that our friendship, right, that throughout all these individuals that we've been through, and you guys have also been on some crazy journeys and been around the world professionally, and you know what I mean, that we've always stuck together. For people that don't know me and Laith and Amir and a bunch of other people, we're in contact daily on WhatsApp and calling each other daily. And this has been a friendship that's been going on for me and Amir 40 years almost, me and Laith, over 30 years as well. So I think it's a strong testament to the connections that people build. Don't take them for granted. Make sure that you give them a lot of love.
True.
Make sure you try to put in a lot into
this
them.
Is it.
And I think
this is it. I think that's. I'm a little bit philosophical today. Whenever I'm in this kind of setting and I have people that are so close to me that I've known for such a long time, people that are really important to me, Laith, Ahmed, I have Besma in the room. She's listening in.
Yeah. Besma's an OG too, bro. She's an OG
big time OG. But really, it really just makes me kind of take a step back and really appreciate the moment, the people around you, the influence that they have on you, and then also to again take a step back and appreciate and see how fortunate you are to have people that love you and care for you, and have that positive influence on you, right? Like, as much bullshit as we talk and we joke around and whatever it is, I think throughout life we've always pushed each other and kind of helped to encourage and develop and you know what I mean? And it's just such an amazing thing. And I think people always, as a whole, right, and I'm talking to everyone out there, you need to really absorb that and take that, and don't take it for granted, because it's such a wonderful thing. You know what I mean? And I'm getting a little emotional just being here.
No, it's the truth, man. If I can just go back to where we started, when I was talking about this book project, I'm already plugging my book and I haven't even written it yet. That's how you know I'm the big head. But one of the things that I spoke about being on the streets and being with you guys, you, Laith, other Laith, Hassan Shubbar, people that I grew up with, is the fact that you guys pushed me as a kid with a disability to maneuver an able-bodied world. And of course, that's something that I've been working on as well. In addition to the work that I do on Iraq, I work around issues of accessibility with people with disabilities as well. But growing up as a kid in a wheelchair in the 80s in Abu Dhabi was not easy at all, right? We're talking about a situation where the city was not accessible, people's mentalities were not accessible, but we were always out there on the streets, you know what I mean? Playing soccer, skateboarding, talking shit to people all the time.
Yeah, but bro, you talk about, we're pushing you. It goes the other way around as well. Like your personality, your drive, your motivation, your passion has fueled all of us in a way that I don't think you realize it. I've never, ever thought of you as less of a person physically, mentally, whatever it is, because of who you are, because of the personality that you carry. And it's been motivating all of us throughout our childhood.
Yeah. But you should know a big part of that comes from the fact that I was able to play with you guys on the street. You know what I mean? And a big part of that, of course, comes to my parents as well, because they were just like, yo, go out on the street with these kids and whatever. Do whatever these kids are doing, get in trouble, fall off your chair, get beaten up, beat up other kids, do whatever needs to be done. A lot of other parents would have maybe been overprotective and been like, no, stay at home. You're in a wheelchair. How can you go out? So I'm just trying to say that experience of our friendship was so life-changing for me that it's something that I feel to this day.
Such an unbelievable thing, man. I can thank Ahmed for teaching me how to fight. Because Ahmed, when we were kids, had the wildest mouth I've ever heard. And he would...
Till today.
Till today, for sure. But he would use that thing like a missile. Yeah. Man, he would mess with people. And then we'd have to feel the wrath. And by default, we taught ourselves how to fight. So thank you, Ahmed, for teaching me how to take care of myself. Right?
My pleasure, man.
It would have been a much more innocent
care of me.
It would have been a much more innocent childhood, I feel, had it not been for your influence.
Man, what a crazy journey. What a crazy journey. We met in Abu Dhabi. You moved to Canada. And, Canada is one of the bigger countries out there in the world. The one city that you end up in, by fluke, we migrate, to Canada years later, and we land in the same city. And I remember
2 years.
Was it 2 years later?
Yeah, I landed in 92. You came up in 94.
And you came 3 years after me, 89, right?
So this is before email. This is before phones. We were faxing each other back and forth. You remember those days? Sending faxes?
Yeah, man.
We land in Canada, and then we carry our friendship. Then you move to the GCC. You land in Qatar, and then years later, I find myself back in Qatar.
Yeah, man.
Or in Qatar, not back in Qatar.
Yeah.
So it's an unbelievable journey, and I'm so thankful to have experienced it with you. And
yeah, man. And so many people would be so envious, man, of the kind of relationship that we've had, to be honest, because people are so regularly isolated in today's world. You know what I mean?
Especially in today's world. Especially
in
today's world, right? We're living in this wild movie-like thing that's happening around, man.
Oh man, I'm so excited about your book. I can't wait.
Right. It's going to be fun. I mean, it's really nerve-wracking. So what ended up happening is about 10 years ago, when the Arab Spring was popping off, I was doing a lot of writing for Al Jazeera at the time, writing about football and Palestine and film. And a friend of mine, Matthew Cassell, who's a remarkable filmmaker and journalist with Vice, had reached out to me and said, yo, listen, man, I'm writing a book. I'm putting together a book about the Arab Spring, and I'd like you to write a chapter for it. And I just was not in the right headspace at the time, man. And, I just really couldn't put it together. But a few weeks ago, maybe even just under a month, the same literary agent that was working on that book had seen one of my Facebook posts, and she reached out to me and she said, yo, I can see that you've been doing a lot more writing again. Why don't we give this, or why don't we try to reconnect and see what you're writing and things like that. And I was like, you know what, man, I just got to make this happen. I got to do it. I've had such a tough year with so much loss, and, times are so uncertain right now. Life is so fragile that I just got to make it happen. So every day I asked a very good friend of mine, Sinan Antoun, is a remarkable Iraqi writer. I really hope you guys check out his work. Award-winning Iraqi writer. I said, yo, Sinan, man, how do you write a book? And he's like, what do you mean, how do you write a book? You just write. I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, no, honestly, that's my advice to you. You have to write every day. If you write every day, the book will come together. If you write sporadically.
Are you journaling? Is it journals, or is it how's the process?
I put together an outline. I want to do a mix of poetry and prose. I put together an outline of the sections that I want to have. First of all, I talk about home. I talk about the streets. I talk about the meaning of love. These are the first 3 sections of the book. And between them, there are some poems, some lines of poetry that I've written. And every day I force myself, I put on my headphones, I put on music that uplifts me, and I just start writing. And honestly, it's the most painful thing I've ever done because it's filled with self-doubt. We live in a backspace culture anyway, where you write 5 words and then you backspace it. So it's very, very difficult, but I'm happy to say that I'm making some headway. I think I should have a first draft ready by the end of June. So let's see where it goes, right? You never know.
You better represent me properly in your freaking book, man. And I want
like by name. Should I drop names in there?
Of course. I'm ready to be dropped. I'm putting myself out there, and I think we've all taken a decision to put ourselves out there because I think we have such a beautiful.
What if some people out there are like, "Yo, we're gonna lawyer up. Why did you represent me as this?" You know what I mean? I don't like the way.
Fair enough.
This is being documented right now, and
yeah.
it's gonna be on YouTube. So
all right.
It's out there.
Yeah. No, I will definitely, man. You guys have been such a big part of my journey, so definitely you're in there.
Do you have a title, or is it a working title?
No, actually, the document is called Untitled by Ahmed Habib. And I might keep that. As the title of the book because I really think it's difficult to put a title on the different layers of our experience and our journey collectively and individually. When Namir was asking me to kind of like introduce myself for this amazing podcast that you guys are putting together, it was a bit of a challenge, not because I'm some kind of like amazing prolific dude, but it's just because me and Namir and your relationship are so multi-layered and multi-dimensional. And, just in the few minutes that we've been speaking right now, we've uncovered so many parts of this relationship.
Unbelievable.
Yep.
It was difficult to be like, well, what am I going to talk about? Am I going to talk about my professional work? Am I going to talk about my shit disturbing life? What am I? And then it all kind of came together. So I'm glad that we're able to do this discussion, and hopefully it's the first of many.
Then an interesting thing now, we know, not a lot of people know, is that you're kind of going into the football space now as well, right? So this huge, amazing opportunity. You're in Qatar, World Cup is coming. Tell the world, right? You have this platform. Hopefully this platform grows so you have a voice, man. So put it out there. This is an amazing thing.
I mean, football has been such a huge part of our lives, man. For people that don't know, me and Namir and his brother Laith, we used to watch videos of Pele in their bedroom on VHS. I'm talking about like 84, 85, 86 now. Talking about way back in the day. Namir was like an up-and-coming soccer star at American Community School of Abu Dhabi. Shout out to ACS. Anybody out there listening? I used to come out to all of Namir's games, if you remember. And I used to always be number one fan. And I loved football. My dad grew up on football. Namir's dad grew up on football. We've always just been football heads. And, as this relationship with the beautiful game grew, I started to understand the intersectionalities between the game and social and political and economic dynamics, and how, soccer influenced different communities and different political movements and vice versa, and the economics of the game. So it became something that I was really passionate about. I began writing about football for Al Jazeera. I used to follow the Iraqi team. I've interviewed Boran Milutinovic, who's like the coach that's been to the World Cup the most times with different teams, 5 teams. He was the coach of Iraq ahead of the Confederations Cup. And football has been a big part of me. For the last 11 years, I've been working at a remarkable organization, which we can talk about later in the world of accessibility. But the opportunity came to me to switch to the World Cup Organizing Committee to work in the area of content development, English and Arabic language content development. And it was something that I couldn't pass up. The interview was actually really interesting as well because, again, I didn't want to apply for this job just because you guys know how it is, man, with job security and comfort zone.
Of course.
When you're in a gig for 11 years, right?
especially now in this world, this environment, man, the last thing you want to do for a lot of people is to try to shift or try something new.
But my friend Erica Stevenson, I hope she's listening to this podcast, kept pushing me and saying, yo, man, you need to apply to this job. Just apply for this job. Send me your CV. What are you doing? Send me your CV. Let's just get this done. And I was just like, you know what? Fuck it. Let me just send my CV in just to like say I did it and it didn't work out. And that's it. You know what I mean? Like, it's just a story that I can tell my friends afterwards. Lo and behold, Erica, of course, who's a brilliant writer and a media producer, long time with the BBC, long time with Al Jazeera. She really believes in my abilities to tell stories. So she was out there putting my CV in the right people's hands. They called me for an interview. Again, no preparation. All I knew is how much I love football, how much I love the game, how much I knew about the World Cup, right? And how much I knew about, like, you know, top goal scorers and the winner of every World Cup and where the World Cup was held every year since it was on. And then not only that, but like I knew about second division English football, and I knew about the Qatari League, and I know about the Emirati League, and I know about the Gulf Cup. So we're in the interview with this, again, really cool dude, James, who's the senior content developer at the World Cup committee. And we're just talking, and he's like, bro, you know a lot about soccer. You know what I mean?
Don't call it soccer, please.
Right.
Please
Sorry.
don't do that. Don't do that, man.
About football.
Foot and a ball. It's honestly
that's correct.
Probably the easiest description in the English language that could be put out there. You kick a ball with your foot.
Yes.
Nice.
That's right. So we're talking, and then he's like, I'm a Leeds supporter. I'm like, oh yeah, Leeds, and you know, Bielsa is your coach. And he's like, you know, the Leeds coach. I'm like, yeah, of course. And you know, you guys are in the running to make it to the Premiership, and Leeds is a great football club. He's like, man, listen, you know, I really need to have someone on the team that can both write and have this encyclopedic knowledge of football. He's like, can you write? So I'm like, I can write. Yes. He's like, can you write an article for me about the Gulf Cup?
Who knew? That's when you dropped the who knew
I
on.
Just been like, right? I should have been like, yo, put on a beat. But so he's like, can you write an article for me in about the Gulf Cup? Because Qatar was hosting the Gulf Cup at the time, a few months later. So a few weeks later, rather. So I was like, yeah, I can write an article about the Gulf Cup. I've been watching the Gulf Cup since I was a kid. I know all the winners. I know how many times Kuwait's won. I know the Bahrain's number one. I know all about the Gulf Cup. So he's like, can you have it ready for me in a week? I'm like, bro, I can have it ready for you now. You know what I mean? I can do the article right now. It's like, just relax, man.
This is where the name BigHead comes from.
That's right. It's like, just relax. Just give me the article tomorrow. Lo and behold, I go home. I write an article in English, and I write the same article in Arabic as well. Ooh. And I send it to him, and then he gets back to me. He's like, bro, we're going to make this happen.
Stop what you're doing. Yeah.
Yeah. But the Gulf Cup's coming up. The FIFA Club World Cup is coming up. Christmas and New Year's are coming up. So I won't be back in touch with you for a few months. And I just kind of lost hope as well, you know, being like, man, this guy must have forgotten about me, whatever. It's all waslat and vitamin W and all that stuff. But yeah, man, I found an email in my inbox from HR, and they're like, yo, let's make this happen. And hopefully after Eid, I'll begin my World Cup journey. So let's see how that goes.
Amazing thing. And honestly, I'm putting it out there right now. If you don't give me some access to come and watch some games, I won't be hating on you. On you. Because it's the World Cup, man. Yani, how many experiences do you get? It comes every 4 years. It's traveling around the world. We're very fortunate that we're going to have it in our region. I'm really excited for it. So yeah.
Well, the crazy thing is that the World Cup right after that is happening in our other region, in USA, Canada, and Mexico.
That's
correct.
So we're going to do back-to-back World Cups. Hopefully by then we'll be back in Saga on Korea Drive. You know.
Are they doing it wintertime? Is this where the World Cup is going? This next one?
That's correct. Yes, as a result of the elevated temperatures out here in the Gulf. We're going to be hosting the World Cup in November and December, which will be really interesting from a footballing perspective as well, because you're going to have the players in their peak form mid-season, right?
True.
So usually the World Cup is a bit of an anomaly, because a lot of the bigger teams struggle because their star players have played so many games throughout the season that when they come to the World Cup, they're just exhausted. Let's see how it plays out. Maybe Messi will get.
How did they manage that? Because I'm sure the clubs must have been super sensitive about it, right? They're paying salaries. They're trying to keep them fit. They're trying to keep them going through the whole season. How, to give them up to the national teams, to put it out there and run the risk of injury. To be honest, I have no kind of background on how they sorted that out.
Yeah. I mean, I think, for all of us that have watched football all throughout the years, we know how important the World Cup is to players, man. You know what I mean? And like, look at a player like Leo Messi, who's, arguably the best player of all time. Many people would say him or Ronaldo, in the same breath. But there's always going to be that asterisk by their name, right? Is that they've never won a World Cup.
Yeah.
True.
And they're going to always, fall short of the comparison with Maradona and Pelé and these giants, because those guys bossed the World Cup when they went there. So I don't think that we should buy the hype that the World Cup is in any way, shape, or form a secondary tournament to club competition. Perhaps it is in terms of the economics of it, but I think for a lot of the players, man, and a lot of the fans out there, man, you've seen football fans, man. I was lucky enough to watch Argentina-Chile in the final of the Copa America that took place in the United States a few years back, man. And, watching Argentinian fans and Chileno fans out there with their national team, it trumps any kind of club support that's out there. It's crazy passion. So I really look forward to it happening here. And for the first time, I'll be working during the. I mean, just me saying that I'll be working during the World Cup is I kind of find myself, I have to pinch myself every time I say it, because as a super fan, every 4 years when the World Cup would happen, I would stock up on the Visine and the snacks and just chill out and do nothing and just veg and watch 4 games a day. Watch like Korea, Nigeria, and get like really all excited, or like Belgium, South Africa, or Iran, Japan. Iran, Japan played.
So now hold up, you're bringing up some names now. So since we're on this topic, we have a football expert. We've got to put it out there, right? I'm gonna put my feelings, right? So I'm a big fan of Belgium, right? I think they have a very strong team, a young team,
super strong team,
right? I think they have a good run at it. Portugal, I feel Ronaldo is there. He's ready. He did the Euro. I think he can push his team across the edge. And then obviously you have the French team, which are coming into their own. They've already won the World Cup. And I think
there's one team that you're forgetting, which is England. I think English players are on the up and up. I'm not a big fan of the English football setup. I think there's a lot of issues with their traveling fans. Yeah. There's a lot of racism out there that they need to tackle. But I think that they have a great batch of young players that are coming up. A lot of them play for the club that you and I support, Man United. We have some really good forwards from Man United. We have some good players that we can see come out of England. But yeah, definitely France, man, is unstoppable. They keep churning out a lot of talent.
Unbelievable talent. It's just a tremendous amount of talent. Yeah.
But my soft spot, to be honest, if I can be biased a little bit, is always going to be for Brazil. And I think just as a kid growing up and just being enamored by the stories of Brazil and hearing about the legends of Pelé, and then watching Brazil win the World Cup in 2002 and 1994 and being witness to that, and just how dominant they were and this beautiful style of play that they bring, and what a beautiful country Brazil is. And Laith, you've been to Brazil, haven't you?
Yeah, I've been fortunate enough to go twice to Rio.
Yeah, that must be just
in Rio. Oh, it's magical. It's a different world. It's a completely different world.
Man.
I mean, what's unbelievable is this weird. What's up with this weird affinity between Iraqis and Brazil? It's such a weird. Every Iraqi I've ever met, aside from myself, and you know me, Ani, I'm in a weird way Spain through and through. I can't explain it. I don't know why. I always supported Spain before they became the powerhouse at the time.
Barazili,
right? The Barazili, and then actually one of the main cheers for the Iraqi team is they say Barazil al-Arab احنا ويسمونا Barazil al-Arab احنا. So they say we're the Brazil of Arabs. And I mean, listen, this is not something that comes out of nowhere. Brazil revolutionized the way the game was played, right?
Yeah,
we were talking about people that brought dance to the pitch. They brought so much flair to the football field, and just at the end of the day as well, a lot of these players are young kids that are growing up in horrible conditions, that are reaching stardom because of their skill and their tenacity. So it's a story that everyone loves to support. So it's going to be a big dream of mine, man, to work in the World Cup, and I hope that I can come out there and tell really cool stories. I really think that a lot of the time the World Cup story is wrapped up in some kind of like sterile corporate lingo, which I really don't like. And I really want to be out there with the fans, talking to people that have made this pilgrimage from their home countries to Qatar to support their team. So hopefully I can do that.
Did you see The Last Dance?
I'm watching
goats.
Yeah.
Goats.
I'm watching The Last Dance now. And again, it really has been an emotional experience for me, because it brought me back to a lot of my friendship with you guys, right? Because a lot of us, didn't really tune into the NBA prior to Michael Jordan. It just wasn't something that we were kind of tuned into. I was lucky enough to see the 72-10 team, the Chicago Bulls, play in Skydome in Toronto when the Raptors beat them. The Raptors were one of the 10 teams that beat them that year.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, Mighty Mouse, Damon Stoudemire lit it up, and we were in Skydome, man, and I was in the nosebleed. I think it was $2 tickets at Skydome.
Yeah, they were just trying to get fans to come and watch it.
That's right, man.
I remember
barely see. Yeah,
Toronto was not a basketball city. It was a shock for everybody when they actually. And that was the first year I was actually in Toronto. That was the first year when it's 94, 95, right? Season
95.
I think maybe
95.
1 year after you, 95,
96.
Yeah.
95 was the season.
I think so. Yeah. I mean, I hope we're getting the year right. I'm sure all the
it is. No, 95. No, for sure.
Yeah.
Fact check it. 95. I'm so
trolls,
sure.
Yeah.
No, I got you, trolls.
But Leif, you were a huge baller, bro. I remember that. You remember that, Namir?
For life.
How Leif was a baller.
He
used to play for
was the guy
Heights.
that arrived in Canada and is like,
where's the draft?
Where's the lineup for the NBA?
Yeah, that's it.
I remember that, man. And he used to play for Applewood Heights, the high school.
That's right.
And then you had that coach, the cop.
Our head coach was a cop. Yeah. That's right.
Yeah, I remember that, man. I remember that. Yeah, I remember, man. I remember you playing ball, and man, I remember, always with you guys both playing sports. Namir, you playing soccer, and Namir, you playing basketball. I just look up to you guys so much, man, and watch you guys out there on the field, bossing it, So I remember you playing ball as well, and even going out to hoop at Mississauga Valley, at the community center. Shout out to Mississauga Valley, of course, right? You know what I mean? And man. So I have been watching The Last Dance, and I think it's a really well done kind of piece of film. I think it really tells the story from a multiple angle approach. And I think it's really cool for all of us to kind of take a deeper look into this pop culture icon that emerged. And I mean, Michael Jordan did for basketball what the Brazilians did for soccer in many, many different ways. So it's a really cool story to watch.
I have to say it has been dramatized as a story. It has to be, of course, for the selling factor of the documentary. But you cannot underestimate what Jordan did to the game.
I transformed it.
Bro, the man put the NBA on the global map. You know what I mean? With all due respect to the people that were out there before him, Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, and Isaiah Thomas, and all these guys. But we heard about these guys through Michael Jordan. Let's be honest, right?
Yeah.
No. But there's a lot of other players like
Kareem. I show love to Kareem. I feel Kareem is probably the most underrated basketball player in the history of the NBA. Mm-hmm. He bossed and dominated every category you can think of. Anything that means something, he's there. It's in an unbelievable way. He's number one on the scoring. He's top 3 in rebounds. He's top 3 in blocks. He's there where it matters. And the guy won. He was a winning championships consistently. Sure. And just, I don't know, he was so subtle. His personality was so...
That's what it is.
Kind of flowy. He kind of meshed in. He didn't try to be a big kind of...
100%, man.
And for that, I feel he's been punished on that reflection upon who's the GOAT of basketball. Like, I don't know. I have that weird feeling about about Kareem. Yani, I really feel that
Yeah.
he doesn't get the love he deserves. He's not even the top. When people talk now, who do they talk about? They talk about Kobe, they talk about LeBron, they talk about Jordan.
Yeah. Larry Bird, Magic Johnson.
And Kareem's not even there to be discussed, which is a shock.
That's right. Yeah.
It's a shock.
But I wonder how much of that is also due to his name. I'm just putting that out there too. I don't know.
You think so?
That's a conversation to be had. Maybe.
I mean, I think at a time, at the time where Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was playing, bro, it was pretty much a whiteout in the sports scene in the USA. So, I mean, for a man to come out there with a name like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar must have been a mouthful for these dudes from like Nebraska and Oklahoma to be like, who is this guy? I mean, I know it was pre 9/11 and all that stuff, but I'd be interested to see what kind of impact that is.
Well,
but this also brings up.
Sorry. It was kind of pre or kind of with the Muhammad Ali kind of movement, because you got to understand, as a high schooler, he had a different name, right? So when he got drafted, got drafted into the NBAs when he switched his name. So it's kind of like that transformation, that Nation of Islam, and that whole process. But to be honest, I don't even want to go down that road. I think honestly, it has to do with the persona. Is he was very humble. He wasn't a person that kind of came out.
Jordan is a shark.
Yeah, well, this is it.
Jordan is a shark.
He just bossed people and just did it in a nice way and kind of shook your hand, didn't make a lot of noise. And I think that's one of the reasons why. Also, again, with the Messi kind of situation, like I'm a huge fan of Ronaldo. I love Ronaldo. I still think probably he's the best. I have to put it out.
I agree with that.
As a United fan,
guys, what are you guys doing now? What do you mean? He's a good player. He's a very good player,
I think
Ronaldo.
Cristiano Ronaldo is the best footballer in the history, the most rounded athlete footballer.
But I think you bring up a really good point. Mm-hmm. But I think you guys bring up a good point, which is the situation of like best of all time or GOAT, greatest of all time. But and I think that's a very difficult way to kind of like, characterize an athlete.
It's an overall.
Because I think I think different athletes have. Yeah, exactly. It's all about when you were playing, where you were playing, who you were playing with, and who you were playing against.
Exactly.
That determines, right? How good you were to the sport. So, I mean, we've always spoken about this as well. People that were great in the 1950s in football, like Pelé, and in the 1960s, how would they fare in the game today with it being so fast and so physical, and with pinpoint cameras and VAR and all that stuff. So it's always up for debate. I think the impact these players have is the way that they're able to transform the game in audience's imagination, right? So Michael Jordan transformed the game in our imagination. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar did the same thing. Magic, Ronaldo does the same thing. Messi does the same thing. A lot of players out there have mad skill, but they don't have that ability to elevate the way you interact with the game. You know what I mean?
Consistency, man. I always tell people, honestly, in life, one of the most underrated things, and it goes honestly across the board. And you talked about it earlier, right? With your writing, that ability to consistently sit down and put it on paper is the difference between being an average writer, being able to actually put out a book, or not being able to put it out. And I think
that's right.
Element is not, we talked about it, is we live in a world where people want instant gratification. People want, to feel things immediately. And unfortunately, that's not how life works. Success comes with consistency. All of these things, these conversations around GOATs, why are they GOATs? Because they don't do it for 1 year. They don't just flash, come and boom, make an impact. They do it consistently over a period of time. And
right.
You don't develop that skill. You don't develop that kind of impact by just sitting every day on your ass and just watching Netflix. You go and you work, right? And
that's right.
I think it's a very underrated thing.
It also is largely determined by how privileged you are. I mean, athletes are really privileged in the sense that they're able to support themselves and their families by doing something that they love. When it comes to more practical things like writing, I'm not the best writer in the world. I'm just privileged enough right now to have a situation where I can dedicate time to writing. If I was a single mother out there, working 2 jobs she might very well be a much better writer than I am, but just doesn't have the luxury of putting forward that kind of consistency as well, right?
That's a very interesting kind of view, and I would want to challenge that. I mean, naturally, uh, look, we all came from upbringings where we were very fortunate. Right? We got to be honest about that. We're definitely sitting on the higher side of life, in terms of how we grew up, and the challenges that we faced. But again, and I stress this point, and I can't stress this point enough, which is, if you have a drive, a willingness to really push and really want to do something, and you have a dream that you want to chase, it's not going to come by thinking about it. It's not going to come by, feeling like, oh, I want to do it, or feeling privileged like you deserve it. If you're not going to go put in the work, learn, right? And we talk about our podcast and all the bullshit that we've put out. Had it not been for learning through 6, 7 painful experiences where we sit and talk to ourselves and realize that it's not recording or whatever it is, right? In that same way, I think the single mother, I think people that are struggling, there's always time, man. There's 24 hours in a day. I'm putting that challenge out there. I think you can make it.
I mean,
you can always.
It's good to put out the challenge, but at the same time, we need to put out the resources for people to be able to fulfill that challenge, and that's why it's so important, right? To have, a society that values creativity, that values the labor of a mother, that values, unwaged labor in the way that we do, so that people can have the ability to create and produce and put out content and practice sport and do innovative things in a way where they're not constantly struggling with trying to put food on the table. And that's what I'm talking about. I think there needs to be those things out there in the community.
But you can't ignore the fact that the common denominator in all situations is hard work.
That's it.
Whether you're privileged or not.
Yeah, I don't think people are naturally inclined not to excel. I think people are more inclined to survive. And I think that once they've taken care of the survival bit, that's when they can excel. Right? And I think like Namir alluded to, us, the three of us in our social circles, alhamdulillah, we grew up being, well fed, with a roof over our heads, and we come from parents who put an emphasis on education and hard work. So all these things allowed us to be able to come out there and try to create and try to write. But I think, I'm sure it would be very different for us.
No, I agree.
It's not an excuse.
What I'm trying to say is that us definitely don't have an excuse. We're not in a place.
That's right.
We're not in a place to sit and say because of this,
absolutely
because of that.
But you can't forget that, from our collective history, we've all been in some really hairy situations or times in our life where there was a fork in the road where you could have gone left or right, and you went back to your upbringing or your education or whatever it is that put you.
Or your support network.
True.
And that's what I'm talking about. The support network is so important, man. You know what I mean? Because all of us went through situations where you're absolutely right, Laith. You know what I mean? We could have had a much different trajectory for our lives, but it was the support of our friends and our loved ones and our families that enabled us to go through. The point of the discussion is, just so we don't end up going on some philosophical tangent, is that creativity is something that needs to be valued in our society. The work that you guys are doing with this podcast, I wish that there was a bigger platform that people can hear your content on. And I know that you have to work hard for it, but I also feel that I hope the media level, the media playing field rather, would be a bit more level. But I know that with good content, and you guys are really smart, you guys are out there putting out cool content, and again, very consistent, and I think it's well produced, and I think the sound quality is great, and I'm just really happy to see that you guys are out there, and hopefully I can come back and be a guest in different times and in different
you will, brother.
Sessions.
You will.
Much love, love. And honestly, on that note, and I think this is the time to kind of wrap it up. And Ahmed, honestly, there's not enough time for this,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Yeah, it's just the beginning. Just the beginning.
This is why you're gonna come back, and like you're saying right now, what we're trying to do is we're trying to create a movement, and we're really trying to give a voice, not just for ourselves, but in general. Like I think we're living at a time that's kind of crazy. We're all cooped up, and we're all trying to just do something, and we tried to grab this opportunity and kind of capture something that we've been chasing for a long time. But honestly, thank you, Hamoudi. You're a superstar.
Love you guys, man.
You're
Love you
someone we
guys.
admire, we love.
Likewise, man. Likewise.
Deep down inside. And I hope people appreciate all the amazing things that you're doing. Thank you very much. Thank you for joining us on this podcast and pulling through with us. As usual, subscribe, like, share, tell your friends. And yeah, we'll catch you on the flip side, man. See you later, buddies.
See you, Hamoudi.
Much love.
Peace out.